Hello and welcome. I'm Rosemary Pena, President of the Black German Heritage and Research Association and Adjunct Professor of German Studies at UBC Vancouver. Our conversation today is the second in our spring event series themed Art and Resistance, produced in collaboration with Davidson College. Dr. Emily Fraser-Rath, our students and I are pleased again to welcome our special guest, Gabriella Ghermandi, this time into our virtual classroom. If you missed our public event on Monday, I highly recommend that you watch the recording on YouTube. Meanwhile, I'll ask Emily if she will kindly share a little bit about our work together before introducing and turning the present conversation over to Gabriella and our students. Emily?
Thank you, Rosemary. We are so honored to be able to invite Gabriella Ghermandi to our class, to Davidson College, and to the BGHRA today. Today is October 8th, 2022, and we, Dr. Pena, me, and most importantly, our incredible 10 Davidson students, are nearing the end of our 6th week together in our German Studies class entitled Black German Art and Resistance. This class is conceived of in 3 parts. It is first a survey course in the field of Black European diaspora studies. Second, it is a community-based learning course as we support the BGHRA through our work, and the students will feature their final projects on the BGHRA archive webpage. And it is more importantly, an opportunity for students and through these recordings, our broader BGHRA and Davidson communities to speak with people whose lives and work intersects with, influence, shape, and inform Black German studies and Black diaspora studies in general. I want to thank my department and my colleagues, Drs. Burkhard Henke, Maggie McCarthy, and Scott Denham for their support and for helping make Gabriella's visits possible this week. In a moment, Dr. Pena and I will fade into the background and play moderators for the remainder of our time together as we allow our students to have the floor. They have prepared incredibly insightful questions based on the work they've read and the music they've heard, created by and featuring Gabriella. We will include links to these works in the notes for the program under this video. And now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our special guest today, Gabriella Ghermandi, who is an Ethiopian-Italian writer and performer. Born in Addis Ababa in 1965, she moved to Italy in 1979. For many years, she's lived in Bologna, Italy, her father's native city. She has published many short stories in a wide variety of journals and magazines, and she's also a playwright. In recent years, she has focused on oral storytelling and performance in Italy and abroad, which hopefully we'll discuss at length today, and has also presented her works at several major universities in the United States. She was chosen to be part of the jury panel for the 2014 Neustadt Prize for Literature, the most prestigious international literary award given in the United States. Ghermandi is a founding member of the editorial board of you'll have to help me, Ghibli,
yes,
an online journal of migration literature. Her debut novel, Queen of Flowers and Pearls, which I have right here, based on the stories of Ethiopian patriots fighting against the Italian occupation and of Italians involved in the history of the period, was originally published in Italian in 2007 and has won several prizes in Italy. She is also the creator of the Atse Tewardros project, which fuses traditional Ethiopian music with jazz and other Western musical expressions to open up dialogue and exchange. So with that, I'll turn things over to Gabriella and to our students.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Thank you, Rosemary. It is a big honor for me to be with you today. I just want to say that my English is not very fluent. So when you will make questions, please talk slowly or write it on the question and answer or on the chat. And I don't know how do you want, we want to go on. If you want to to leave the floor to question and answers, or if I have to follow starting from the end of the talk I gave the other day. I don't know, what was your idea?
I think we'd love that if you'd continue from the other day and then bring the students into the conversation.
Okay. Did all the students watch the video? So they, okay, that's good. Thank you. Because otherwise it's a bit difficult to understand. So someone the other day asked me how, which type of methodology I had used to collect oral sources. And it was a very particular question because I know there are a lot of methodology, but in all my work, I have never followed any type of methodology. I have to be honest. All what happened, it came from questions I did to myself, and from finding answers that need more questions and more answers. And it was because at a certain point when I start understanding that I have lived in a world that was created by words that were not real, as the superiority of the Italian people over the Ethiopian one. And when I started to understand how the things were, a lot of questions came into my mind. These questions were very pressing, and it was not possible for me to silence them. And so, as I said the other day, when I wrote the novel, I didn't have the idea of writing a novel on the question of the Italian colonialism in the occupation of Ethiopia from an Ethiopian point of view. But it came because of all these questions and all the story that I told you when I brought my mother home, and after that I could collect the stories. And what happened was that I was like, you know, a river full of water. You cannot contain it. And I remember the year I wrote the novel, I was always reading books and collecting stories. And I remember there were the stories of some women patriots, Ethiopian women patriots, and their autobiography was saved at the library of the Ethiopian Patriot Association. So I would call some friends and ask them to read me some parts, some passages of this autobiography at the phone from the library of the Patriot. And it was like, talk more loud, I can hear you, but we cannot shout. All the old people are looking at me. It was an incredible, I say that it was a love story. Writing is a love story with words, with memories, with characters, with everything. And I remember that all the time in that year, they were asking my husband, that is Italian, how are you? He used to answer, how am I? I'm in the 1935, it's bad time and I'm on the wrong side. That is what's going on in my family. It's all the time about what happened in those years. So, and so what happened was that all my passion and the question brought me to a path that brought me to other question and checking and looking for other answer. And I told you that when I did my first album, that year, the British lottery gave £4 million to talk about women empowerment, and they pretend to create a group called the Spice Girls of Ethiopia. And this was another pinch to my stomach, because as I said the other day, a country that has an epic that starts from males wanted to talk about woman empowerment in a country which epic start with women. And I said to myself that I wanted to get to the point of making a CD about the Ethiopian historical and mythological female figure. And so today, I want to tell you a few things I have worked on those days. Because what happened was that after checking and looking and writing project, at the end I had some funds. Of course, they were not the 4 million pounds. It was only 20,000 euros. But with this 20,000 euro, I went to Ethiopia and start working on woman music and on woman figure. And I decided to do this project together in parallel with another part of the project that would be in Italy, because this was the only way to have some funds. So what happened was that I start going to the villages in the South Ethiopia and collect songs and stay with people I have lived with when I was a child. And I remember the first song some girls sang to me. They are Muslim girls, and the song is called Adisa Golole. And you know, you always have this idea of Muslim women so submitted and all this thing. And this song was about a girl that she knew that a man was going to ask for her hand. And in this Adisa Golole, the girl asks some friends to go out at night when there is the full moon and sing this song that says, "I'm the beauty of the Lake Shala." I said no already to two men that came to ask for my hands. And who are you, the turn, to think that I will say that I allowed you to marry me? Please don't come, because my answer will be no again. And also during that day, a grandmother, she sang to me a song that women used to sing when their daughter is married and she goes. And it's a song to the man that will marry her. And it's, you came humbly to knock to my door, and you brought fresh grass that you break with your nails one by one to bring the auspicious of fertility in front of my door. And you kneel on your knee to ask the hand of my daughter. And she already told me that she wants you. So I give you my daughter as your bride. But please remember, when you will take her home, don't treat her bad, and do not talk bad about her sibling, because otherwise I will come and take her back. And then there were the story which are between epic and history. And the first I want to talk to you about are the Queen Candace. Do you know something about the Queen Candace? The Queen Candace were queens of the kingdom of Meroe. This kingdom of Meroe was in South Sudan. And at a certain point, the South Sudan was conquered by Ethiopian during the Aksumite reign. Queen Candace, Candace meant queen mother, but also mean royal woman. And these kingdoms were they had a matrilinear heredity of the kingdom. So, and what happened was that there were very brave queen, and one of these, she fought the Roman Empire, and she wrote a treaty with with Gaio Petronio not to come down from a certain point of the Sahara. Another one, who's the Queen Candace Aminatore, is probably the one mentioned in the Bible, the Act of the Apostles, 8:27, when they Saint Philip, which is in prison, he's in prison with an eunuch of Ethiopia. Is it right, eunuch? Eunuch, do you know this name? This meant that they were not anymore male. We cannot hear you, Rosemary. Do you know the word?
A eunuch, I think.
A eunuch, yes.
Eunuch.
Okay, thank you. I will ask you to help me with the pronunciation.
Now you're muted, Gabriella.
Okay, it was in prison with an Ethiopian eunuch, and he told him, if you want the truth, I can baptize you. I can teach you about Jesus Christ. And then it's said in our oral tradition that the eunuch talked to his queen, that was Queen Candace Aminatore. And so all I have seen is the legend of these queens, and what is said is we call them Hendeke. And we know about them that they used to fight standing on elephants. And probably someone also says that the Queen of Sheba was one of the Queen Candace. And then after we have the Queen of Sheba. Queen of Sheba, that she's mentioned also in the Bible as the Queen of the South. And it says at the end of the world, when there will be the final judgment, you will appear in front of the judge, and the Queen of the South will be one of the judge. And why is this? Because I tell you this story how I was told when I was a child. The King of Solomon, the reign of the King of Solomon was a very great reign, full of richness. But also Ethiopia was a very rich reign. And there were merchants going back and forth from Ethiopia to Jerusalem. And one of these merchants told the Queen of Sheba about this big reign of King Solomon. And she said, but ours is big too. What's the difference? But one day the merchant came and said, you know, the King Solomon, the one I told you the other time, he's very much educated. He has a lot of knowledge. He's very full of wisdom, and he knows a lot of things. And he prays the God that is not in any object, any planet, is everywhere and nowhere. And he knows a lot. And so Queen of Sheba decided to travel and to go and meet King Solomon to challenge him on his knowledge, to see if he knew enough as her. And she has traveled for 6 months. And when she arrived in King Solomon, at the door of Jerusalem, she was welcomed by the noblemen of King Solomon. And at that point, she sent her father to the house of King Solomon with a round bread and a bottle full of wine, wine, yes, okay. And King Solomon sent a message back to the queen. And he said, the moon is not full and the sea is not flat. So Queen Sheba turned to his father and said, did you drink some wine before giving it to the king and had some bread? And he said, yes, I did. But I wanted to see how he was able to use words and to challenge you. And yeah, there's a lot more that's going on with the Queen of Sheba. But another research I did is on, on the first human being, Lucy, that was Ethiopian, and she was found in 1974 in an archaeological site in Afar. And the fact that we don't call her Lucy, but we call her Dinkanish, which is you are a wonder. And so I decided I was going to work on the music around this figure, and also on some tradition that have women at their center. For example, we have the Kunama people, they have a matriarchal lineage. So the heredity passes from female to female. And then we have the Dasanage. And for example, the Dasanage, they do particular ceremony when a girl has her first menstruation, and her adultity is welcomed by all her companions through singings. And then we have another particular tradition, which is the Sinke. And in the Sinke tradition, there's a stick, which is considered the stick of the goddess. And every woman hereditate her stick from the mother when she get married. And when a woman goes out from her house holding this stick, it means that she's asking the floor to talk. In that moment, she's the goddess, and no man can look into her eyes. And she has the floor to talk and to say any type of advice or ask for things to do. Like, for example, think of the Sinke was used during the first period of the problem with HIV. So to give information to people to how to avoid the contact with HIV. And okay, but so what happened? I told you that this project was together with a part of the project that has to be done in Italy. And we decided to work on this project with some Italian classes for migrant people. And so the thing was to work with these migrant people on the stories of the women, important women, of their history or their stories or the family. And it came out that a lot of them had a lot of stories, but they didn't give value to these stories because they were not Western stories. Maybe they were traditional. And I remember we made a video, and there was a girl from South America of 15 years old, and she said in the video, when teacher Chiara asked me to talk about women, I start crying because I realized that I forgot that we had a lot. And so now I came to a point, then I will leave the floor for answering questions. So what happened was thinking about women, thinking about perception. And at this point I started through some article, and I don't know if you had the news of that girl, Agitu. She was a girl, the Ethiopian girl that lived in North Italy, and she was, how you say, she had some goats and made cheese from this goat and in agriculture field, and she has been killed one night from one of her workers in a very brutal way. And so what happened was there was a lot of thinking on this fact of how the Afro-descendant women were perceived in Italy. And there was a lot of discussion in the Italian Black community on what happened to Black women when they go out at night, and how it is more easy to be rude with an Afro-descendant woman than with a white woman. Why? Why was this in Italy? And I started thinking about the fact that when Italy just discolored the question of Italian occupation of Ethiopia and all the colonial history, they also discolored the image they gave of an Afro-descendant woman, Ethiopian woman, Eritrean woman. But this is still living in the unconscious of the Italians. And now I want to share you how the Ethiopian women were presented before the war. So I will try to share. Can I share the screen? Yeah. I try to share, but I cannot find the way of sharing what I need.
I just made you co-host, so you should have the share screen button now.
I have this share screen button, but basic advanced. Let me see if I can find another way. Huh? Just give me a minute. Let's see if it works. No.
You could, if you want, you can email me or send me a link or something and I can try
Yes,
to.
I think the best thing is that I email you.
Okay.
Elizabeth. So when you will share, you need before to share the upper side, okay? Okay, I send them. Did you get them?
No, not yet. Maybe copy Rosemary on that. So here's my email, just in case.
Wait, let me try again. Huh? Did you get them now? Hello? No?
Rose, did you get anything?
Nothing yet.
No.
I didn't send them to Rose. Let's see if you can get them, because maybe with Gmail it's easier.
There, I just received them. Let me,
Okay.
okay, and then share.
Share first the upper side.
Can you see it?
Yes. So this is how the Ethiopian women were described before the initial war of occupation of Ethiopia. So we have a slave market. Women are described are only seller of men are only described as woman sellers. And so you have two soldiers of the market, and they are saying each other, oh, we can put together money so we can buy one, then we can share her. Okay, there are 8 postcards. I will show you only 3 of them. And under this, there is a real woman living at that time. This woman is Mulumabet Imiru. She was the first pilot of Ethiopia in 1934. She was co-age with the postcard, and she was the first woman to have the driving license at the age of 18 years old. So how we were described, what we were. The second one. Okay, here is Moretta. Moretta, it's how you say? It's a nickname to say the little black in love. There's, I don't know, it's in other countries they used to do this. He loves me, he doesn't love me, with flowers. Yeah, she's doing the same, but with a cactus, because of course, you know, our land that was full of forests, but it was described as a desert place with cactus. And she's asking herself if the soldier loves her or not. And under this, we have a real woman living at that time. Okay. This woman is Sinudu Gabriella. She was a teacher, but when the occupation of Ethiopia started, she became a warrior, and she entered into the group of the Ethiopian Black Lion that were soldiers, Ethiopian fighters, and she fought against the Italian army, and she was imprisoned and brought to Italy. And she was imprisoned in a very small island called Asinara. And when she went back to Ethiopia, she became the vice president of the Ethiopian Senate, and she has fought to have laws for women. And she was a writer, and she wrote 36 novels, and 36 novel manuscripts are deposited into the Ethiopian Studies archives, and she wrote in English, French, German, Italian, and Amharic. And then the third one, and this one is the one I love more, and she's also in my novel. So how we're described here, it says the soldier from Abyssinia. Come on, guys, look, what women warrior are arriving. I don't know if you can see how you call this thing to avoid swords or something, this rose thing.
The shield?
The shield, you
Yes.
see, is like a breast.
Mm.
Everything is eroticized. Everything looks erotic. Okay? So women are preparing themselves, washing themselves to meet the warriors. But then under we have a real warrior of that time. This was Kabadech Siyum. And she was the wife of a prince. And at a certain point, the Italian, they sent a message to her husband and the brother and telling them that they had to surrender because otherwise they would have used mustard gases over the population of their area, and that they were going, if they were going to surrender and go to the camp of the Italian army, they would be imprisoned but not killed. And so they decided to leave their people and to surrender. But the husband of Kabadech Siyum went there without telling to her that he was going to surrender. But when they arrived at this camp, they were killed. And with notice that he was killed, she also had his letter where he explained her why he was going to surrender. And she was pregnant of 4 months. And there were 5,000 soldiers of her husband, and she decided to go on with the struggle. And she became the leader of these 5,000 people. She gave birth to her child, who was a male, and she named him Tariku, that means the history. And they used to fight with this little child hidden in a basket because the Italian people were looking at the boy to kill him. And so she used to hide him in a basket that was used to bring food. And she fought, and when her husband was killed, it was 1937, and she fought for 2 years, and then she went out from South Sudan, and she reached the father of her husband in Palestine. Okay, I think I stop here. Huh?
So who would like to ask the first question? Just speak. Or would you like for Emily to read the questions that you've written in the email? Is she still here? Did we lose her? Oh, I think we lost Emily. She'll be back. Yeah. So let's begin. You all wrote questions, so who would like to get started for us? Claire, would you like to begin first? Or one of the guys that I saw that you unmuted, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask on like in terms of your music, what were you currently working on, and you know, how are you being inspired by current music to make your new product?
So I usually work on the very traditional scales. And then we are a group of 8 to 9 people. I decide the scale that we have to use. And for some music that I have done with some on some very particular tradition, I went to the ethnic group of the tradition and wrote the text and the melody together with the composer of the tradition. So I take this melody and the verses, and then we meet together and we work like 10 days. And we listen to the music and we play and then record and listen and play and record and listen. And then, for example, before recording this album that it's finished right now and will be out like in few days, we have worked on the songs for 5 days, 5 years, playing the songs in a lot of stages, because you realize if a song really works when you do it in a concert. And so it's hard for me also because I have to accept all the contribution. For example, there is a particular Ethiopian scale which is called Anchihoye, and it is very oniric, and it was used to create music for churches. And the Italian drummer, he told me, I want to put a punk riff under this song. And I was like, oh my God. But then he put it and it was great. Yes, so we try all the inspiration, and then we decide which one to keep and which one to leave. But usually at the end, we always agree when something works, it sounds inside of everyone.
Do we have another question? Jayla?
Yes, I had a question in regards to you as a Black German artist. Do you feel that people, whether other artists or producers, try to limit like your music or your artistry in any way?
No, I didn't understand. Can you repeat slowly, please?
Yes, I was saying, in your experience as a Black German artist, do you feel that producers or other artists have tried to like limit your work in any way, and how have you combated that, if so?
Actually, I'm not Afro-German, but like Ethio-Italian. Anyway, yeah. Here, the question of the Italian occupation of Ethiopia is still very much covered. So I always have problems because, for example, my project never fit into popular music or traditional music where we have found in Italy, because it's not popular or traditional music of Italy. So I cannot apply for funding. Or maybe we have some festival director, they want our music, and then we have the major that says that I'm going to say something that the electors will not like. So yeah, it happened that I'm still in a very small corner. Even if I'm the only Ethio-Italian writer, my band is the only Ethio-Italian band in all the world.
Thank you.
Claire, you had your hand up?
Sorry, yeah. Kind of relating to that. I'm sorry, I'm a little sick, so my voice is scratchy. Oh, it's okay. How have you worked to integrate and create a well-rounded view of being Ethiopian and Italian within your pieces of works? Like, has it been hard to try and mix them both? And because of the role that, like, in Italy being a colonizer towards Ethiopia, or has it been easier to be able to like work within them because you are both identities. Does that make sense?
Uh, you know, luckily there is something that the human being can do, making a step forward from this point of view of being colonizer, colonized. But sometimes you are lucky and you find yourself in the middle of just human being that can see all the mistakes of human being, and that we always do. And at that point, you just work with these people. I don't know if it would make sense, my answer. Yeah,
No,
so
thank
it's
you.
not a question if it has been easier to work in Ethiopia or in Italy, but it is easier when you find people that understands you and that share with you the same value. So when we did our first concert in Ethiopia in 2017 with the band, because we have done one in 2013 and then the second one was in 2017, it was the first time in the history between Italy and Ethiopia that the Ethiopian patriots were invited in an Italian institution. They never entered an Italian institution before that. And while we were singing and playing songs, the Ethiopian warriors start to dance. And I remember that I turned my face and the Italian drummer was crying. So this means, you know, for me, the easy thing is that I can do whatever I want with them because they are my family.
Thank you.
In Ethiopia, we say when you, because I don't know if I really understood exactly your question. So did I switch on or switch off the light?
It wasn't exactly what I asked, but it was much more informative. I really liked your answer and it really illuminated a lot for me. So I'm glad that that is how you took the question. So thank you.
Okay.
I do have a question. In reference to Atse Tewotros, the emperor, I'm not sure if I said his name correctly, but I was wondering what the common consensus or how his legacy is taken in Ethiopia or Italy, but I guess Ethiopia in general, like how in the households.
Yeah, you need to repeat. I'm sorry. Be patient with me.
So the emperor that you two your songs are named after, Atse Tewotros.
The emperor of Ethiopia,
Mm-hmm.
Haile Selassie, the last one.
No, ma'am. I believe it was Atse.
Atse Theodros. Okay.
I was wondering
because Atse means king.
Oh, King. Okay, sorry. King. I was wondering how his legacy is taken, or how the people of Ethiopia feel about him and his policies.
Okay. The thing is that at the moment, Ethiopia is having a very controversial moment. So this king was very much loved because he was the one that unified Ethiopia. But now we have a very hot question in Ethiopia. I don't know if you have seen that a war is going on, and we have a lot of troubles because we had this terrible idea of making a constitution based on ethnicity. So at the moment, I can say to you that half of the Ethiopian still think that Atse Theodros was a great emperor, and half of Ethiopia hates him.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Yeah, it's, you know, what we are facing at the moment is something very particular, and it's also very difficult to illustrate. But the question of having a country divided into into a federation where each state is an ethnic group. It's something that brought a lot of poison in Ethiopia, because Ethiopia has always been mixed. The people of one ethnic group has married another ethnic group, and many times you don't even know which ethnic group you belong to because you are so much mixed. But then after the end of the dictatorship, when the government that has been in power for 27 years came into power, they decided to create this federation based on ethnicity. And so there has been a lot of division inside Ethiopia, something that grew up in 27 years and now exploded. We hope that things will find a way not to have the Ethiopian balkanized.
I have a question. Do you feel that since you began your project that your identity has shifted to feeling more Ethiopian or more Italian?
I think that I shifted to be more one instead of two half, and not knowing which half I belong to. Because the question is, you know, I have always been asked to be white or black, to be Ethiopian or Italian, to be more Ethiopian or more Italian, to be seen not enough Italian, not enough Ethiopian. But I think that working through art gave me the possibility to be Gabriella Ghermandi, and that's it.
I have a question as well while we're on the topic of like identity. In your talk from Monday, you mentioned how your mother raised you or wanted to raise you as being white. Did you ever feel any disconnect or anger towards your mother because of her decision, despite you wanting to be part of both cultures, Italian and Ethiopian?
If we were still living in Ethiopia, maybe I would have been angry because my mother would not need. Yeah, what happened is that my mother also came to Italy, and she also had to rethink to all what she thought about Italy. And as this happened when I was a teenager, so I didn't become adult with this thing, but with her recognizing that she made a big mistake. Because after that, she starts saying to me, our people, my people is so so clean, so clear, and I never understand all what was going on when I was a child, but because I was taught that they were inferior and I had to be on the white side. So I to be honest, I have never had anger with her. I really felt all my life her pain, and I wanted to cure her pain so much, you know, because I have seen my mother suffering from this so much. She has been dependent from alcohol for 26 years, and we had to go through family psychological healing for 5 years. And after that, she could recover from this soul sickness. So No.
Thank you.
Kadia, I know you have a good question.
Okay. I was thinking about your comment, Ms. Ghermandi. When people go to Europe, they stop dreaming. And I thought it was really interesting. And I was curious to hear, how do dreams inspire your art? Also, can dreams inspire resistance?
You are very sweet. What if we don't have dreams? One thing that I always say to students is that they have to have huge dreams, very big dreams. They have to dream in big. And there is one thing I've loved a lot of the documentary on Quincy Jones. At a certain point, her daughter asked him, "You have done so much, but how can you be so humble?" And he answered, "Because I had an unreachable dream, so unreachable that I still feel as if I haven't done anything. That's why I am humble, because I see that my dream is still far." Yeah. You know, I grow up in a country where there is a lot of faith. And dreams and faith goes together. Where we think that our roads can be only of some kilometers, faith and dream can make it infinite. I really believe this. And I mean, all I did is not for sure important, but for sure I had a lot of struggle to do this work, to do it in Italy, to talk about things that nobody want to listen to create a musical band which is half in a continent and half in another, not having funds and always looking for funds. But all I did is because I dreamt of doing it.
Thank you so much. Also, another question kind of related to your answer. I was really curious about the band that you made and how you brought people together from both Italy and Ethiopia. So how do you see or hope to see the fluidity or the diversity of bands like this happening in the future?
The first thing I want to tell you is, so first I have to tell you the story about how this band, how I found the musician of this band. When when I did the performance for the commemoration in front of the Ethiopian Patriot, there was a professor, and he told me that I had to talk with a man who was a musician, a musician of 70 years. He used to play flutes. He died now. And he was the one that he choose for me, the musician. We have been together like 15 days, and we have talked, we have been together, we have toured Ethiopia, we have been to churches, and only at the end, he told me, "Okay, now I'm ready to understand which are the musicians you should work with." And especially he chose one musician that was the Masinko player, Indris Hassan, which is a one string bowl, the Ethiopian traditional one string bowl. And we started working together in 2010, and we are still working together. But then at that point, I said to myself that it was not enough to think about making music with Ethiopian musicians, because when you talk about freedom, is a value that you have to condivide with everyone. So I wanted both my parts, the Italian one and the Ethiopian one, to talk about freedom on the same stage. And so I start looking for the Italian musician. But what I wanted to tell you is that I feel the difference between this project and many other musical bands, that we always work on a project. The first thing is what I want to say to the people. So the first thing I wanted to say to the people is we are working on the war songs of the Ethiopian resistance. And now we are working on the traditional and historical and mythological female figure of Ethiopia. So it's because it's, you can work together to make music, music, it's of course by itself a language. So you can put musicians of different countries together and create a group. Maybe you can make things like the Silk Road Orchestra, or there's one called the Nile Project. And yeah, because you can share, you can talk, you can understand about rhythm. But the thing is, then, and for me, it's not enough to make wonderful music. For me, I need to have a message. But this is my need. So it depends from the people. I mean, some people, they just want to play together. They find that type of music is wonderful or very intriguing and so on. And some people, they want to talk of messages through music. So it depends from the line you choose to walk on. So I don't know how it will be in the future and what do groups like this, how can groups like this born? I do not have suggestions. But for me, it was, I need to say something through music.
Thank you so much. That was really informative.
When you're creating work, how do you decide what method to use, or like why to use, whether you want to write about it or create music about it? How do you consider or think about what is the best way to share this message?
Do you mean why is the best way to share the message, through music or through writing, and how comes the message? Or yeah, can you tell me some more, please?
Yeah, so like do you start with a concept in mind and then think like about how you're going to share that? Or do you start with like, oh, this is a really nice like concept in music, and then you find the message from there? Did that make sense?
Yeah, I understand. But the thing is that it all starts with the urgency of saying something. It's not something that comes in my mind, but something that possesses me, which is very different. I feel like possessed from the need of saying something. And this is the concept. It's not a mental thing. It's very, very, you know, when you get furious, do you get furious sometimes? Grace?
Sorry, I also am not American, so it just took a while.
Okay, okay.
To process the
Okay,
English.
okay, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Do you get furious sometimes? But that type of furious that makes you feel like a tiger? Yeah? Yeah. That is when the message possesses you.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
I hope you don't mind. Can I ask a question as well? So in the conversation that you were having on Monday, you said that when people read your book, individuals would kind of make comments, and you also commented on the fact that they rewrite the book itself. Could you go into a little bit more detail about what that exactly means, and how did that contribute to kind of the story you were trying to tell?
I will try with my broken English. So this I first want to tell you one thing that I understood very deeply when two professors of Smith College, they were translating one of my short story that I think you read, which is I Remember. And there is one point where it says the signature of my father with the arms open wide. And they asked me a question. How are the arms open? Are like a cross or are... So I realized that what I see when I write and what the reader see when it reads can be very different. So, and the other thing is that when you write a novel, it's like giving birth to something, but then it's not yours anymore. And when when the reader reads the novel, there are points that maybe the writer consider only as a strategy to pass from one point on another. And the reader focuses on this strategy and find meanings for himself that you weren't focused on. So why I tell you this? Because I read a lot of review of the novel, and people saying in the reviews things I never wanted to say in my novel. And they say, she says this and she said that. And so I went there and read again the novel, and I found what they saw. But it was not something I was focused on. Because of course, when you write like 300 pages, not all the line are parts of a deep creation. Some parts are the strategy to go from one point to another. But maybe the reader needs that point instead of the point before that was something very deep for you. Does it make sense?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you all for your great questions. really wonderful. And I hope we can continue these conversations with you in various ways and various forms in the future. So I'll turn things over to Rosemary to close us out.
Thank you very much, Emily.
Well, a million thanks again, Gabriella, for sharing so much of your time and experience with us. We are always grateful for Emily Fraser-Rack and Davidson College for making these invaluable conversations possible. A special thank you to our brilliant students for their contributions to today's discussion. The recording will soon be uploaded to our YouTube channel at Black Germans. Please subscribe and turn on the notifications so that you will be alerted as new conversations are added. Visit our website at bghra.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Eventbrite for details about upcoming events and, importantly, our upcoming February 2023 annual virtual conference. We hope that you've enjoyed today's conversation as much as we have, and until next time again, we appreciate your